It has been a huge final couple of weeks of World Triathlon racing, tracing a line from the South Korean World Cup action in Hyundai and Tongyeong, a Aquathlon and Cross Triathlon World Championships in Extremadura, the second WTCS of the new season in Abu Dhabi, the World Para Championships, also in the UAE capital, the World Junior Championships in Quarteira, the Para Cup Alejandra, and the Duathlon World Championships in Aviles. Don't forget, you can catch the full race replays over on triathlonlive.tv. And also email us now on podcast@triathlon.org to tell us who you would like to hear from on the pod. But now it's time to catch up with the star of the Europe Cup in Quarteira, Lotte Miller of Norway, and hear about the highs and lows of another big year as she heads into the off-season.
I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and then January, February, leading into the next season, my body just broke down. I've been in breakaway positions with the athletes that are way stronger than me. I remember getting away with Jessica and Katie in Bermuda, and I remember the high I got from that, and just the confidence and the way Jessica and Katie just, we're not racing against each other, we're racing with each other here, and we're actually making each other stronger. We're building. It's a culture where winning is everything. And the focus is on being the best, and the best being number one.
Today on the World Triathlon podcast, we catch up with Norway's Lotte Miller. After an Olympic debut earlier this year in Tokyo and fresh from Europe Triathlon Cup gold in Quarteira at the weekend, Lotte now heads into the off-season, ready to build into a massive 2022 for the 25-year-old. So Lotte, welcome. How are you and where are you?
Hey, yeah, thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm actually really good. I've had like 48 hours post-race where I haven't done anything. So I'm like totally going into this like off-season, like really like full on. I'm good, yeah, and I'm actually in Edinburgh right now. Basically just packed my bike after I finished my race in Quarteira and headed off to my second home in Edinburgh. So I haven't been in Edinburgh since the lockdown started. So it's nice to come back and see family and just enjoy being on holiday, yeah.
Yeah, holiday, nice. And it looks beautifully sort of sunny there, or is that just the golden glow of victory from Quarteira?
Yeah, it's a mix between a golden glow and actually nice weather. It's been nice. It's been very autumny, a mild autumn, you know, like 10 to 15 degrees and blue sky and, you know, a fresh wind. So this is perfect to come back to, yeah.
Yeah, nice. So, is it your mum that's Scottish, your dad Norwegian? Is that right?
No, opposite. So my dad's the British one, and then my mum's the Scandinavian one.
But you grew up in Scandinavia, in Norway, or?
Yeah. So I was born in Norway, in Stavanger, west coast, southwest. Reference that's 4-hour drive down from Bergen. So Bergen is more north. It's that's where the boys live. And then I've been doing school, always lived in Norway, but Edinburgh and Scotland was also always kind of holiday season to enjoy, and it's a place where you can come, feel like home, but have no stress and no stuff you actually have to do. So it's like a relaxation home, yeah.
Oh, so you don't, when you said you packed up your bike and left Portugal, it didn't even come with you? Is this like a cutting out? Oh no, hang on, what's that? Oh no, it's right behind you. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I've got my bike bag here, but that's only because I did a direct travel from Portugal to Edinburgh. So I'm not actually planning on packing it out at all the next couple of weeks.
Is the off season something that you kind of look forward to, and then within a few days of not doing it, you're actually itching to get back to it? Or are you one of those people that can fully immerse yourself and switch off and then build again?
Well, I think off season has always been very different from year to year, also because my seasons through my career they've always been very different. The fact that I've been ending this season on a high note makes me go into this off season more relaxed and feeling like I deserve to rest. And also the experience I've had through the years is if I really enjoy my off season and I really relax, I don't feel the pressure to exercise. I feel more motivated and more fresh to get back into it when I then actually start training again. And I think that's a very important thing, is off season is a time to build that hunger to get back into training. And if you feel that you continue that kind of discipline of I need to move because that's physically what I need to do to become the best athlete I can be for the future, I think that stress makes it easier to kind of commit 110% when you're back. That's what I find, because I'm a very committed athlete, physically, but also very psychologically. And this is my time to like de-stress. And I think that's a good thing for me going into 2022. And also 2021 was a very challenging season for me, very mixed, some really highs, like really big highs, but also some really lows. So mentally I'm drained. So I really find myself like taking it day by day, but right now taking a walk is the most activity
Heavenly.
I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you say, like, you want to relax and enjoy it, and so to be able to come into it positive already with that goal must be wonderful. We were talking to Kenji Nena a few months back, and he was saying how at the end of 2020, he'd had terrible luck in Carlo Vivari coming off when he was near the front and so on, and he was in a really sort of low place, and then came out the other side with a win, I think an Asian Championships win or something like that just kind of flicked the switch again and kind of gave him that extra boost to go into the low season. Because it must be, there's so many ways to look at it, I suppose, from someone who's not been through it, but going in on a bit of a low, feeling like what you want to do is one thing, but going in feeling on a low and just feeling like you've had a terrible season and like, what am I doing here, must be awful. Going in on a high now, Europe Cup win, and being able to feel like you've definitely earned that time off and can carry that buzz through. Have you personally had those heading into off seasons where you've been a bit lost as well, and you're like wondering how this is going to shape up and how the next season is possibly going to work?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of them. I've had 2 seasons, 2014 and 2016, where I just couldn't race because I was totally burnt out. And those were really lows for me. So that was kind of a period where I was heading into like winter training after not having a season at all, and actually not been able to train at all because my body wasn't responding. And I've also had seasons where I've started really well and I had to end them because of injury, and also a milder burnout again. So I've been there plenty of times. I've actually been in those low places more than I've been in those happy, good places. And I think that's also why I'm really enjoying going into this off season with, I've had a really good end of the season. And I think it's really important anyway, like, it doesn't matter if you've had a bad end or a good end, but I think it's actually being able to distance yourself from the sport for a couple of weeks is really good, because even ending it on a high, you can end it on a high and be really like motivated, and you can forget to take that break. And then that will hit you going into the next season. And that was what actually happened to me when I was a junior in 2014, and when I became a senior athlete in 2016, I had some of my best seasons the years prior to my burnouts. 2013 was kind of my breakthrough year as a junior. And then 2015, I ended it with a junior bronze medal. And I was never more motivated than what I was at that point as an athlete. But I forgot to take it easy afterwards. I forgot to take a rest, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. And then January, February, leading into the next season, my body just broke down. And I think that was the mental and the physical stress. So I think it's all about kind of, you have to distance yourself. I think that's really healthy. And especially if you kind of identify yourself as an athlete, that if you are an emotional athlete, because I find, some people, they can distance themselves from results in racing while they're in their season. And some people are 100% committed the whole time during the season. And if you can't shut down during the season, then off season, you really have to shut down. You really have to shut down your system. Just kind of press that off button and just become that normal person and really kind of find your, because I like to think of an athlete as I'm Lotte as an athlete, and I'm Lotte as a person, and this is my time to just really cherish Lotte as a person and do what I would do outside of sports, and kind of find out, what do I like outside of sports? Like, what do I enjoy doing? You know, where's my passions outside of the sport? And I do that, you know, when I have my off season, and I'm just a more happy person, and it's easier for me to kind of build my relations with family and friends, because there's no pressure of having to perform and travel. And so
yeah, nice. So those passions, I mean, do you sort of start those again each time slightly as well? Obviously there's, you know, no doubt things that interest you and so on, but you know, some nice long lunches with the family to get things going, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. I find, like, and I don't necessarily have a lot of stuff that I actually am passionate about outside of sports, because sports is such a big lifestyle. I think a lot of triathletes have it like that. It's like the only thing that takes up their time is sports. But the fact that you can be more social, you can actually enjoy your lunches over a longer period, you can sleep in. That's my passion. Yeah.
So that burnout you were talking about during that off season, is that the sort of thing that is a bit of a risk when you're out of your normal training environment, and if someone isn't sort of telling you to just ease back, that is when people will tend to burn out a bit, is it? If they're sort of just kind of pushing themselves too far without their coach there to sort of wag the finger a bit.
Yeah, I think the thing is, a lot of people talk about injury, and injury is I always found when I've been physically injured, like if I've had a tendon issue or if there was been a bone issue, that's actually easy for me to tolerate. Like, that's easy for me to handle, because it's a very certain plan of, okay, physiological wise, you will take 6 weeks to heal, you know, if you have a stress fracture, if you have some tendon issues. So you can make a plan. With a burnout, it's very hard to identify. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's very hard to kind of pick up the signs of, this is an athlete that's burning out. And especially if usually there is, you know, there is resemblance between the people that burn out and how they act. They're very disciplined. They have this kind of feeling that they have to perform, they have to be there, they have the, so they tend not to listen to their own body, but they tend to do what they feel like they should do. Mm-hmm. And especially younger athletes that don't have enough experience. I think if you're left on your own there, and you only go by your own desire and your own motivation and the feeling that I have, and I need and I should do this to become the best athlete in the world, and you don't actually listen to the signals your body's giving you, like, are you sleeping well? How's your mood? Are you happy with, you know, how's your relationship to yourself? You know, are you looking at yourself in a positive way or in a negative way? And I find if you start lacking the mental energy, the fact that you're happy, you're not smiling and laughing and enjoying what you're doing anymore, the sleep and the food is stressful, you know, your appetite isn't there, you're not sleeping well, everything is a bit off balance. That's a really good sign of, okay, this is somewhere you don't want to be, because it's not going to hold over a longer period of time. And I think that's where athletes need to ask themselves, is this sustainable? Can I do this over a longer period of time? Or, like, if you're in an off season and you're doing something that's not sustainable, then you're in the wrong place, because in off season you should be doing something that's sustainable. You know, when you're in a period during a season where it's really heated, a couple of weeks, you really have to push your body. If it's into like a big championship, an Olympic games or whatever, it's different. But when you're in off season, you shouldn't be doing stuff that's not sustainable, because that's a period of time where you should slack off and take a step back. And it's very often during the off season where you don't have your training buddies, you don't have maybe the face-to-face contact with your coach the whole time, that people tend to do wrong stuff, you know, because people have this quote of, it's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light. You have to grind, you know, when no one sees it. But maybe that's not where you should grind if you're such a try hard, disciplined, overachieve athlete. Yeah,
you need to find yourself a little mental space as well. But yeah, when you don't suddenly have that regime, that routine rather, yeah, I can imagine it's, you know, what are you filling those gaps with suddenly? It must be difficult.
Yeah, I think a lot of athletes struggle with that. And I've studied sports science, and there is a lot of discussion about, you know, the dual career, the fact that an athlete isn't only an athlete is also a person, and the sense of having a value as a person. Where does your value lie? Is that only in the training and the accomplishments you get out racing, or is it actually value from, you know, what you can bring to the table personality wise, and what you can give to other people? And I really worked on that after my burnouts, especially because during my burnout seasons I lost a lot of confidence, and I really didn't have a good, you know, relationship to myself, because my value was only in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it really hard for me to relax into the fact that I couldn't train, I couldn't compete, and it was just awful years. And now I try to really work on the fact that there is a value in myself outside of what I actually can perform, and what I can do in competition. And it's hard sometimes. You get really carried away, and sports is everything. But the value in yourself as a person and what you can bring to the table there, I think, is more than what you can deliver on a race or on the race day. Yeah.
So did you find yourself coming to the end of races and basically comparing your race yourself against those people on the podium? Why wasn't I doing it? What were they doing differently? How can I? And then
yeah, exactly. And then you would go home and you would want to train to become, you know, a winner, and you were probably not at that point as an athlete. You have to always identify, you know, where am I in my process, and there is a reason why, you know, the best right now are, you know, they're early 30s and I'm in my mid 20s, so I shouldn't be pushing stuff that's not there yet, and kind of accept that I'm on a level now where I can compete, but I have to accept that I'm not at the world best level right now. But if I do everything right and I keep healthy and I am happy, then that might happen in the future. But the most important thing is have fun and enjoy it, because everyone's been telling me, and that's the interesting part, is everyone that's finished with their sporting career, they would look back and say it was so fun, and I enjoyed the training days, and the competition was always fun as well. But it was the stories you hear when they really smile and get their enjoyment from is when, oh, we were on this training camp and we did this crazy thing, and that was what I remembered the most, not necessarily when I pushed my hardest at the Olympic Games and I got a gold medal. So that's really interesting to hear. And I want to look back at my 20s and not feel, you know, and not feel like I wasted them, because as an athlete, there's so much you have to, people say you shouldn't say sacrifice, but you do, because you choose a very different kind of lifestyle to a lot of your, do you say, peers, and you get something else, but you say no to kind of the student life and partying and doing the fun stuff. While you're getting a lot of fun out of sports as well, you're traveling the world, but you have to make it fun, because you'll never get these years back. And it's something that also my dad told me when I've been going through these tough times, is you can stop whenever you want, but you just have to remember you're in a position that only a few percentages of the world will ever come to. You're the top of, you know, you're at the top of something, you're the elite of something, and very few people get to experience that. And you have to enjoy it as well, because you're getting something that no one else is getting. And I thought that was a very nice way of he told me that this is very special. You put yourself in a very special position, so enjoy it while it lasts, because no one will, or you'll never get that back. So
just getting on those start lines, being able to do what you do is remarkable. So yeah,
exactly. And it's not always that we remember that, because we're so focused on being at the top that actually just competing is not good enough. But sometimes it is. And it's not to say that you shouldn't achieve more and you shouldn't be hungry for more, but you also have to be grateful for where you're at the moment.
And it's being competitive that's got you to that point that's got you to here, or that's made you start on that journey. So, and you're one of triplets, right? So that's
true.
kind of definitely got some competitive roots in there, presumably.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, because the more I've been in the sport, the more I've also found out that there are multiple triathletes that are triplets as well. I think there are some long distance. Sam Long,
right?
He's one of three in the triplet triplet sibling gang, and also Holly Lawrence, I think, is a triplet too.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've heard some podcasts from them, and the thing they say is their competitiveness comes from being a triplet. And I think that's such a nice way of saying it, because that's where I find my competitiveness comes from too. Yeah.
Does that still rumble on in the background? Are the three of you still quite competitive about things, or is that like...
Yeah, we've always been, but we started doing sports as a, young kids, but only as fun, but we started in different sports, and that was a good reason for that, because we were just pushed into the same primary school, same class. We lived on top of each other. It was just our space to kind of get our own kind of connections with different people, and our own community. And I think what was very nice, and what we see in a lot of groups, is success breeds success. So my sister started doing very well in martial arts, in taekwondo, and I looked at her and I saw, if she can do well in her sport, then I can do well in mine. So it's actually my sister and I, we've been excelling in our sports, going internationally, and then my brother, he's been keeping it more like low-key and chilled, but doing like national competitions, and also playing for the national team in Scotland, because he's been over in Glasgow studying in Strathclyde. So he's been doing some competition over there. But it's fun, because it's the will of performing, and also we've just been focused on, from a very early age, the fact that if you want to do something well, you have to give 100% of yourself, and then you most likely will do well. So work hard and it will pay off. And I think that's a very nice thing my parents told us from a very young age. Yeah.
So to be able to come back now and have that gold medal with you from Quarteira and so on as well must be a very nice feeling. But but also what a race. I mean, let's just sort of go back to the specifics of, Quarteira on the Algarve. It was a big weekend of racing. There was the Junior World Championships as well, as your Europe Cup. And you can't have been in too many positions before where you've come off on the bike, been able to get back on, still have 2.5 minutes, was it, coming out of T2, and then still have to stop twice and still win. And then indeed, at the end of it, we spoke in the interview. I was lucky enough to be there, and you just said how much fun you'd had. And it, there were points there where it definitely didn't look fun, but all part of the game.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm actually very happy about Quarteira. I think for me, first of all, it was my first win. I've never won anything internationally, and it's taken me a couple of years to actually win something, and that was a big thing, to actually lead a race, because I've never been in this position before. But also the fact that I did it in the way the style I did was also even more impressive for me, and that made the race even more special. It was this was the race, and the character, and the will was kind of just 100% me, and the way I race. And I've always raced hard from swim bike. I haven't been the most talented runner, but I'm working on that. But the fact that we managed to get away on the bike, and the bike was just cool, and after doing the 70.3 as well in Cascais 2 weeks ago, I knew I could ride solid and just keep even watts, and we did that, and I enjoyed that. And I was very fortunate to have Sharon with me, and I was just working with her, because I knew that we could get the best out of each other on the day, and I didn't want to drop her at any point, because I knew she would benefit a lot from getting away with me as well. It's so much experience for a younger athlete to be in a breakaway position, and I've been in breakaway positions with the athletes that are way stronger than me. I remember getting away with Jessica and Katie in Bermuda in 2018, and was that 2019? I think that's 2019. Yeah. And I remember the high I got from that, and just the confidence and the way Jessica and Katie just included me in that breakaway. We talked and we made that like a team effort, and I wanted Sharon to experience that too, because I think you grow a lot as an athlete from knowing that we're not racing against each other, we're racing with each other here, and we're actually making each other stronger. We're building momentum here. So I really worked with her, and I told her that we were doing a good job, and we were doing, like I always say to people on the bike, it's investment. The more we invest in the beginning, the easier it will get, on the back end of the race. So racing Sharon in Valencia a couple of weeks ago as well, she knew how I raced, so she was prepared to do that, and I knew she knew that, and the communication was key. And I think that's where the X factor lies in really working together on the bike, is knowing that there's a commitment there from different athletes, and knowing that I want to work, we just have to find a dynamic where everyone can get the most out of each other. And the stronger rider has to just pull longer turns, but then being two is also, it's easier if it's, then you can kind of have a couple of seconds to reset and then go up back front again. So it was just really beneficial for me, and it was just more fun to do it together than alone.
Yeah. And did you get to speak to Sharon afterwards? Because she obviously didn't, the run unfortunately didn't quite pan out for her, but did you see her after and just sort of say, that was...
Yeah, I saw her and I gave her a big hug. And I think, she was maybe disappointed with the result, but I think what she really got out of it, like personal, I think was way bigger than the result. Because I also remember, again, when I've done my breakaways and I haven't necessarily been on the podium, I've been in a podium position getting off the bike, but I've just haven't been the best runner, and I haven't been able to hold it through all the way to the finish line. But I still got a massive boost, and I got an experience that I could build on for the future. And I think she'll realize that was a massive race for her, and that she really learned something, because the attitude she had during the bike, the fact that she didn't give up, she was on my wheel, she wanted to work. She could have easily decided to just stay behind, like the majority of a lot of girls do. They just decide that I don't want to work, but she decided to invest. And I love athletes that really make their own race, and you risk something, but I also think you push limits, and you only get better by pushing your own limits.
That's so nice that you could reflect on your experience in Bermuda and sort of bring that to Sharon, and I'm sure she would be massively grateful for that. And
well, I hope these girls see it as I'm doing a positive thing, because a lot of these girls, they look at me and they say, stop shouting at me. They're literally they're telling me to why are you being so aggressive to us? And it's not badly meant. It's just the momentum has to be there. There has to be a communication, and someone has to take charge, if you want to actually get there and push hard. And I think they see that afterwards, that it's only meant as a kind of motivating thing.
In the heat of the moment.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't see that, especially the girls that haven't raced too much. They don't see it as actually a thing that I want to help us by making us work harder so that we get a beneficial advantage out of this. They see it afterwards, and then they're like, shoot, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Well, and it's cathartic for you. It G's them up, presumably it G's you up, you're putting yourself through it. Let's have a bark. Let's just roar at each other and get through this and get faster.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm learning a lot from doing that as well, is how do you communicate in a very motivating way? How do you make people more motivated? How do you make people less motivated? And some athletes tend to respond better at the more we have to do this, come on, push. And some tend to be more you have to actually go up to them and say, hey, you're doing really well. I can see you're struggling, but you're actually doing some really solid work here. I can see you and I see your effort. Continue doing this. More of a personal attack. So I'm learning a lot about communicating with different people, during the races.
Yeah. Have you ever sort of in that case, have you ever sort of turned to someone and given it one of your specials and just seen their face go, oh my God, what the hell's going on? And go, oh, no. Have you ever felt like you've had that impact on someone immediately? Like, oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah, like some would actually just, well, it's hard to see their faces because a lot of people have, their sunglasses on. But when you don't get a response, you just get like a grunt or something. Then, okay, this girl doesn't necessarily have the energy to actually take all this in.
Yeah, this isn't
so
helping.
I better just shut up and just keep my distance. Yeah.
But you said at the time as well that, and it was clear how much you were enjoying the bike and working together. And that must be, is that just one of the best feelings when you can see the gap growing and you're feeling in the flow and everything's going? And conversely, it must be the most frustrating thing when you're in a pack that just can't get organized and nothing's happening. And for whatever reason, that gap isn't closing. And yeah, presumably, like, you find yourself in both positions, just depending on the race playing out. And yeah,
I think when everything goes your way, then nothing is wrong, and that's very, like, everyone understands that. If you're in a flow and it's just going your way and you're dropping the athletes you want to drop, I was in a very good position knowing that with 2.5 minutes, and a lot of people had to run very fast to catch me, and I didn't think I would cramp on the run, so I thought I would have like a good buffer on the run because I didn't feel bad going into the run, leading in, into the race. So I was very confident, and I thought, yes, maybe I'll be able to take my first win. But I also, sitting on the bike, I was thinking, I feel for the girls in the chase pack, because I always also know the feeling of being in a chase pack where there's no no organization, like there's no people wanting to work together. And I had a Norwegian girl, I had Stina in that race pack, and I wanted her to have a good race. I wanted her to feel like she had a fun race ending the season. And I just knew that for her, being in that unorganized chasing pack, it wasn't necessarily a fun group to be in, because it was probably just boring and demotivating to see that we were working so hard and we were organized, and they just weren't. So I had like split emotions. Yeah.
How does that happen? If, presumably it's in everyone's interests in that pack to try and close the gap. Obviously there'll be some stronger bikers than others, and catching you in full flight is no mean feat anyway. But it does happen, pretty regularly, and you just see these packs that just can't quite kind of figure it out. And talk us through that from
you see, the thing is with triathlon compared to like cycling, like I've started watching cycling races just to have an understanding of actually what you can, because you see in cycling you'll get a breakaway of like 2 people, but then when the chase pack decides, or the peloton decides to really commit, they close a gap of 3 or 4 minutes really quickly. And that's what we don't see in triathlon is, the peloton doesn't seem to be able to commit to catch the chaser, the main pack or the getaways. And that's also because we don't have those cycling teams. We don't have these like teams with 4 or 5 athletes that can organize. And it's all about actually the fact of, if you're in a bigger group, you have more power, you have more athletes to kind of build momentum and keep the pace up. But they decide not to do it because there's an insecurity of, I don't know if these people are on my team. I don't know if I'm going to do the majority of the work. I'm going to burn out. They will save energy. And when you find yourself in the position where I don't think I'll actually gain anything from pushing, I'm only going to put myself in a more vulnerable position, then you don't actually want to work hard too. And then you're ending up looking at each other being very like, if you're not going to push, I'm not going to push. And then the breakaway groups just gets away. And I wish we had the mentality that I find that the majority of like Northern European athletes have, the fact that, we have to commit, and then hopefully we'll be able to kind of perform on the run as well. A lot of the athletes know that they're capable of pushing hard on the bike and also running well off. They actually take chances and they race hard. Because Yeah, it's hard. It's very much a mental game, and actually feeling, you have to play smart, but you also want to get the best out of yourself, and you want to play the cards that you've been kind of stacking up during training and off season. And for me, my cards are really strong on the swim bike, so I want to play my cards, like I want to play all my cards on the bike, and that's where my best races, also my best results, come from, is when I invest in the bike and we get the breakaway.
Yeah. And so just to finish in Quarteira, obviously you did come off at the end of the second lap, wasn't it? At the end of the second lap.
Yeah.
And I only glimpsed it on the TV, but it looked like Sharon had stopped as well. So it appeared like maybe there'd been a bit of a coming together, but no.
No, I was in front, and I was just going around the roundabout, the end of the second last lap. Yeah, and it was just slippery. So I lost the grip on my tires, and I just went down, and it was really low speed. So I didn't actually get a lot of damage. My bike seemed fine. I didn't really check my bike. I just jumped on it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like necessarily that I had any damage. I got some bruising, but I didn't feel it impacted my race afterwards. But it was just a mental kind of, oh, I'm leading this race and I'm feeling I've got this under control. And then like, wow, I'm actually lying on the ground right now. I need to reset. And she was behind me, so she had to slow down and actually wiggle past me. And I think for her as well, that was a shock, because she didn't think I would go down either. So I think for both of us, it was just like, okay, where are we at now? What's the situation right now?
Yeah. And then she was presumably very happy to see you come trucking up again in her.
It was so nice, because I came up behind her, and she basically, she just asked me, I hope you're okay. Are you okay? And she gave me like a pat on the back. So it was really like it was a team kind of feeling and spirit. And that was nice.
Yeah. And there was a lot on the line when with you in that position. And, it's not a position, like you said, you've been in a whole bunch of times. So once you'd had that sort of systems check and realized everything was all right, it must have been a huge sense of relief, get up and go again, out onto the run and stretching away from Sharon. And, there was Swiss and obviously Ilaria Zane going very well behind as well. But to you, the gap wasn't really closing in that much. So when you had to stop for that first time, cramp comes on super quick, obviously. And you knew that you had enough of a gap, and you were very sort of philosophical after and said you just sort of reset, and you could see you kind of breathing in and but without, if the buffer had been smaller, it would have been really hard to stay that calm, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's very hard to kind of get into the mindset of how would I actually, what would my thoughts be in that kind of situation. I think I wouldn't have said, this is my day, I'm done, because it was the last race of the season. I was really prepared that I just wanted to do it, and I wanted to get it over the finish line anyway. But I think it would have been more stressful, and I don't necessarily I think my cramps would probably have been worse, because I wouldn't be able to kind of relax physically, try to kind of get into that relaxation state. I managed to do that quite quickly. I was in a very good mental space when I had my cramps, but yeah, that could have been, in a way, it would have been more exciting if it was a bit tighter, if I actually had to like crawl over that finish line like a couple of seconds before Ilaria. But I'm actually quite happy I had my buffer.
Yeah. Oh, and again, those small margins, right? Had you had a third one and the gap got closed, and then, and you had just missed out on that gold by virtue of those cramps, God, and then heading into the off season, it's these small margins that can dictate your, the course of how the next couple of months would go.
I think that just shows as well that the fact that we had been working so hard on the bike, the investment was really I got something out of it, because I didn't know I would start cramping. We could have decided to stop pushing hard after the third lap on the bike, and we could have gotten like 2 minutes instead of 2.5, 3 minutes. But then that would have really made it really hard. It would have made it hard for me to win, because I would have still gotten probably the cramps. So it just shows that the more of a buffer you can get on the bike to get on the run, the more control you have if there was to happen anything very inconvenient like it did for me. And I always find that I don't know where my run's at when I start my run. The last year it's been more stable, but I could have a crappy run compared to some of these really like speedy girls from behind. And I just find that I can work harder on the bike and get more out of it than running harder and getting like 5 seconds extra on the run. So that just shows never give up, always push hard on the bike, because you never know what's going to happen.
Quite, you never know. And then, the other massive race of the year was obviously Tokyo, and it was the 7 up front that were, that had that gap and were sort of stretching the lead that time around, and in very difficult conditions, but with very experienced cyclists going through. So, in that, but equally a huge amount of talent in your chase pack there. So how was that? How did you find that situation in that bike? And was that a situation where, I don't know, everything from kind of course conditions to the pressure of the race and so on played into, or was it actually just the 7 up front was kind of the perfect number in those conditions, and it just made it next to impossible to close in on?
I think conditions had a lot to do with how the dynamics ended. Because it was very slippery, because it was a bit windy, people took corners very cautiously, and there were a lot of girls that went down already on the first lap. So you just saw that if you rode too aggressively, you would end up going down, and that doesn't help if you want to gain ground on, or if you want to kind of make the distance, close the gaps. So I think that really had a lot to do with it. But I also think Olympic Games is different. Sometimes a lot of athletes, they find themselves either kind of visualizing the races before, and if you're not in that golden position out of the water, then you kind of end up maybe getting a bit demoralized, being like, oh, I'm not where I should be, and I thought I was in a better in a better place. And so I found, and also looking at the race afterwards, I could see that the second and third chase group, they weren't working together. There were 2 or 3 athletes that were committed, and then the rest were just sitting there. And I think that's sad, because I think everyone would have gotten more out of each other if they just everyone committed as well. But it was a very technical course, and it's hard to do those efforts together when the interruptions of corners and then there's incline, and then there's road surface, transitions, and I think also the dominant riders on the bike, they tend to want to be in front because then they have control, and then I also prefer that as well. I wanted to be in the front of my pack because the conditions were so strange.
A huge amount to kind of concentrate on it in every sense.
Exactly.
Just to stay on.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that was, and I've been told that many of times, because there's so much frustration in being the strong rider, having to kind of drag all these girls around. And I've had so many discussions with the Norwegian guys, but also fellow athletes, is like, why don't people actually take initiative and want to come in front and push? And I've just been told a lot of these girls are just struggling with actually keeping up. So, and like realizing that there is a difference of, capacity, and especially on technical courses, and where it's just, the focus is just on, keeping on your bike and keeping the wheel, not expecting too much of everyone. And I think, also, that's very nice when you come to the certain point of not relying on other athletes. You're just kind of, I'm going to race my race, and if someone wants to race with me, that's fine. If not, then I know what I have to do anyway. You don't use too much energy on being frustrated on other athletes not doing their part, because necessarily they can't actually do anything more than they're doing.
Yeah, for such an individual sport, the reliance on other people is often very strong.
Exactly.
But I guess to know that someone like Flora with that level of ability was able to take the gold, and it was just such an impressive year, but particularly in that race. And it was quite a performance, wasn't it?
I think it was amazing. Every one of the medalists really deserved it, and they raced gutsy, and the way they raced up front, these girls, of course, they deserved the top spots, and they work so hard, and they all have their own story. I think that's what's so admirable with all these ladies, is everyone has their story, and everyone's been fighting their own battles, and the fact that they can show us that they fought through and they managed to kind of get their podium spots was amazing. I think for me, watching Katie get that medal, that was really impressive. The fact that way she'd reset after having a year with losing her dad, and also performing maybe not at her best, but actually being able to she got her spot, and then she managed to turn it around and get a medal at the Olympic Games. I think that was wow, what a, there's no words. It's just the respect of, the mentality, and she bought it on the day, and Georgia and Flora as well. They've shown that they're the best in the world right now, and the way they do it is also just, there's no doubt they've worked really hard to get there, and it's just really you look up to these girls because they were nice, and especially it's all about kind of being good role models and showing that well-earned work gives well-earned results through really hard and solid, honest work.
And like you said earlier, for you being 25 and knowing that potentially those best years are still to come, and that for Tokyo you can look back and think that was your first games, and those three, they're the benchmark, aren't they, for you personally?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm also telling myself that I am 25. I'm not 18 anymore. I'm not like this young up and coming, because that's also is like a default in a hole that a lot of athletes can get into, is, well, I'm an up and coming athlete. And you say that for 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 years. Like, I'm young in this sport. I only started, triathlon when I was 20 or whatever.
And then someone else comes when you're not looking, and then Taylor Knibb steps in and changes the game again, or... Yeah.
Exactly. So the thing is, you shouldn't make that an excuse for, I've got so many years to kind of develop. You also have to kind of take your chances and really put yourself in a position where you can get the best out of yourself and the most out of yourself. I just realized this year I'm 25. Like, every year I have in this sport from now on is valuable. And that's why I've also tried to do new stuff, like do 70.3, because I have trained a lot of years. So if I'm able, like, I'm capable of doing these things now. I'm capable of going into a race, trying to win it. I'm capable of doing a 70.3, the distance. So now the excuses, they're just not good enough. Like, I'm up and coming. I need a couple of more years to train for it. I'm not experienced enough. That's bullshit. So I'm 25. There's so many people, they've done so much when they're 25. Like, a lot of my friends, they've got kids, they've got husbands, they've got houses, a master or a PhD. And I'm just like, okay, I need to start doing stuff.
I think you're doing pretty good. And Kristian as well, and Gustav with his sort of results lately, and winning in Florida and so on, and collectively, Norwegian triathlon just absolutely flying, and clearly you're all very much enjoying what you're doing, egging each other on to the point of these amazing performances. And if you think back, so in the first Bermuda 2018, you weren't actually there, were you? But that was the sweep, the podium sweep from
I remember that.
Jasper, Gus and Kristian. And for you, were you watching? Do you remember thinking, oh yeah, that was coming? or was it, I mean, the sense of, just apart from anything else, just pride in your pals' performance must have been immense.
I remember I was in Denmark, because I've been in Denmark. I've actually been training outside of the Norwegian team from 2016 to 2020. So I was in Denmark, but I was watching that race. And I remember Casper getting away, and I was thinking, what's happening? Like, honestly, it was happening. Like, if anyone was to do a breakaway, Casper was probably like one of the least favorites. But I remember watching that and being really like in awe, and also the way Gustav and Kristian then went. And then Andreas Schilling went as well, and he was my teammate at the time. So these were all my fellow countrymen and my teammates going away in breakaways, and I thought it was just amazing to watch. And the way they did it, just so under control, and it was very apparent that the dynamics in that chasing pack was, as we talked about earlier, there was no one that wanted to kind of commit. No one wanted. They were like just watching each other.
Someone's going to blow up, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the fact that, you know, when Casper went over that finish line, and when then Gustav and Kristian came over, I remember I was crying. I was sitting there on, you know, my sofa watching it and like crying, because it was such a big accomplishment for them individually, but also as a team. And I was just so proud, and the fact that no one had done that before, but also looking at them and seeing them as a team for the first time. I don't necessarily think I've ever seen them more as a team before. And after that moment, they started really looking at themselves as one team. And I think that really strengthened our kind of team collective commitment. The fact that if 3 can do it, then everyone on our team can do it. And because it's three very different kind of athletes, they're not similar at all. They've all got their different strengths and weaknesses, and they're very different personalities as well. And the fact that they managed to kind of get the best out of themselves, and they managed to get the best out of themselves from each other, is amazing. The dynamics in that trio. And so, no, that was a very special day, and a very inspiring, motivating day for all Norwegian triathletes. Yeah.
And then, you know, I suppose people kind of thought for a little while after that was how it was going to be every race, that one of those 3 was going to sort of try and pull the breakaway, and that's not necessarily how it played out. But so then for you, were you always going to join that collective the closer Tokyo got, and the more obviously it was that you were going, and was that part of the trying to get a team together for the mixed relay as well, that Harold wanted to get everybody together, or what? How did that come about, you joining in?
Well, it was more the fact that I thought the Olympic Games would be in 2020. Everyone thought so. So I was planning on making a change after the Olympic Games in 2020, because, as I said, I feel like every year is a very important year in, you know, the development of myself as an athlete, because I start counting down my years now instead of like counting in my years, if that makes sense. I felt that I needed a change to kind of develop as an athlete. So when 2020 went by and there was a 1-year postponement, I thought I could either wait and
so that came after the postponement. It wasn't in the run up to the original Tokyo.
No. Yeah. The plan was to stay in Denmark and continue with my team there, and then kind of join up leading into the pre-camp with the Norwegian team, but not train the same and be a part of their training regime the same way. But after after what was supposed to be the date of the Olympic Games in 2020, I asked myself, I still need to develop as an athlete. I can't postpone a year. I need to still kind of challenge myself. So that's when I started thinking of doing a change. And I tried different stuff out, and then ended up like winter 2020 leading into 2021, going back home, and then joining the group. Yeah.
Intimidating at all? Put it a little bit, you know.
Very, very intimidating. I think also
apart from the fact they all seem like, you know, lovely fellas that, you know, wouldn't be intimidating on a personality basis. I'm not saying, just in terms of what you were perhaps letting yourself in for.
It's a culture where winning is everything, and the focus is on being the best, and the best being number one. So I was put in a situation where I felt that I had to say, I want to win. I want to win. And I don't think I'm in place in my career where I'm a winner, where I can say I want to win all the races I want to do, because I'm just not there on all three disciplines. And the fact that I had the feeling that I had to say, I'm going into this race and I'm going to be the best, was kind of, I was lying to myself, and I knew I was lying to myself. I was telling myself something that was actually something I didn't believe in, and it was kind of demotivating. And that was all on me. It was nothing to do with the team, but it was just the fact that these guys are in a position now where they can say, I want to win. And because they're in the position where they believe that they can, and I'm in a position where a top 10 is amazing. That's where my level is as a WTCS, if everything goes as planned. But I'm not, if I can't beat the Flora Duffy on I can't beat the Flora Duffy or Katie Severes, then they have to have a really bad day and I have to have a really good day. And that's just not happening. So I was just feeling I was in an environment where I had to kind of tell myself, I want to win, I want to win, I want to win, but necessarily not believing in it. And that stressed me, and that got me in a place where I was stressing very much mentally and physically. I've really felt that going back to the Norwegian squad and doing the testing and the training that they do there, it's really lifted me and made me stronger as an athlete over all three disciplines. But mentally, I think I was really stressed and insecure because you're in a group of winners. And if you're not a winner, you're not a part of the group. And that was all put on, like, that was just me telling myself that. It wasn't necessarily something that they told me. They never told me that, but that's something that I kind of put on myself. So, and I think that shows in my performances as well. This early 2021 season is I was so close to doing great stuff, but I was never there because mentally I was a bit burnt out. Mm-hmm. And also leading into the games, the Olympic Games, I think I also was a bit burnt out mentally because it was a lot of stress and a lot of pressure I put on myself. And I actually didn't believe that the things that I said, I didn't actually believe it because I didn't think I was capable of it. And then after the Olympic Games, I had a really down period. I think a lot of athletes did. Olympic Games are very like, either you are having the race of your life and you're happy and cheery and everything is golden, or you're actually just ending up in this dark hole and like, I've invested 4 years and now I didn't really do my race and what's going to happen. And I was the latter. I was really like in a dark place coming home, coming off like a training camp for 7 months. We left January and I didn't go home. I didn't end up, touching my feet on Norwegian ground until after the Olympic Games. So the fact coming home and having the reality of like, I've been to the Olympic Games, I didn't really perform, and then coming home and nothing had changed was really hard for me. And I went from being a part of a team for 7 months to kind of getting home alone. So I needed a couple of weeks to reset and then feel sorry for myself for a bit, cry a bit, get it out, and then kind of seeing, okay, do I want to end my season or do I want to continue? And I said, I want to continue. I want to end it on a high and do something a bit different. So doing a 70.3, ended up not doing Abu Dhabi, doing Quarteira instead. But that was such a good decision, just kind of doing what I wanted to do, not feeling that I had to do anything to gain points, because that's the thing as well, chasing points, chasing Olympic stuff. It's like, I've done that for 3 years now. I don't need to start doing that a couple of months after, the Olympics.
Slim window where you don't have to, isn't it? And you can pick and choose a little bit like what you're feeling. And
Exactly, yeah. And I would rather do a Continental Cup and try to win. And that's what we've been discussing within the team as well. And I remember Kristian having a discussion with one of our younger girls that's now up and coming, Solveig, and he said, the best thing to do as a young athlete is learn how to win. Learn how to win, because then you can build that kind of momentum and get that mindset. And I've never learned how to win because I was just shocked into WTCS racing when I was 17. We've always been a federation where you're just challenged.
And then you're playing catch up.
To race, yeah. And then you just get to race the highest level from day one if you want to. So I've been racing more WTCS races than I've done World Cups and European Cups. So I've always been kind of in the middle of the pack and never been the winner. So it was really nice to feel that this weekend. And I think it's important for me to kind of get some confidence and just believe in myself as a winner, because I haven't really done that.
So that would be your biggest advice to Solveig and is it Stina?
Stina, yeah.
Stina Dale.
Stina.
Yeah, to find those middle grounds, not necessarily jump straight into the series events. And
I think jumping into the series events is a really good thing as well. A lot of athletes wait, and they wait too long, and they kind of spill their chances of doing it. A lot of athletes, they can't because it's hard to get into, like the British women and so on. But I think a lot of people should try to challenge themselves, because I think then you understand where the level's at. And you also get some really nice stories. You get some really like admiring, like and motivating stories. I remember I did my first WTCS race in Stockholm in 2013, and I was new, like literally I didn't know anyone. And I remember Sarah, I don't if she was Sarah True or Sarah Gruff at the moment, I can't remember, but she came up to me. She came up to me in the athletes lounge before the race and talked to me and said, "Hey, you're new. I've never seen you before, and it's nice to see you, and welcome to this, league, and I hope you have a great race." And that made a big impact. And then after the race as well, I think she medaled. I don't know if she actually won but she got a medal, I think, that day. And she came up to me after the race as well and said, "I was so happy when I saw you were in my pack on the bike." Oh. And the fact that she took time and she saw me and she showed that I saw the level you had to be in to be able to really be competitive, and also the dynamics of racing with these elite women at a very young age, but also seeing that these women are really nice. And that made me want to come back as well. So I think it's a mix between, you have to challenge yourself if you have the possibility, but also you have to get some confidence by learning how to win. So a good mix there.
Yeah. That camaraderie is quite an amazing thing to witness. That, and I suppose it's born a bit out of a sense of, well, we're all in this together. We're about to put ourselves through the mill here and hopefully come out the other side. And after Tokyo, when you went over to Claire Michel and threw down a couple of F-bombs at the TV camera, but sorry. But again, that's that thing that, like you were saying with Sharon on the bike in Italy, or with Sarah in 2013, and it's those things that you would massively appreciate if the wheels were on, if the boot was on the other foot, whatever.
Yeah, and I always say that. I always say, do to others what you want others to do to you. And it's not necessarily always I manage to kind of keep those words and act on them, but I try to remind myself, when I'm in a position where I see someone struggle, like, what would I appreciate someone doing to me? And Claire, really, she's an athlete that she gives so much to the community of triathlon. She gives so much to these young athletes, and she's such a good role model, and she's such a nice person that for me it just came very natural to be there for her at the Olympics. And I saw that she was struggling, and I thought, if I was in her position, what would I want someone to do for me? I would want someone to be there for me and kind of show that the result doesn't matter. It's the fact that you actually managed to get over that finish line, and we appreciate you more than what your race was this, at this moment. And it was horrible to see, and it was awful, but I was just acting on the fact that, she would probably have done that to me. So that was just natural for me to do that for her that day.
Yeah. And then she was very honest as well on social media about the kind of the fallout from the games and the emotional roller coaster that followed. And when you from such excitement and build up and the dreams and the hopes to the other side, it must be incredibly difficult. And then, but for you guys, or for you and perhaps Gustav more, given the circumstances around the games and the restrictions and so on, it was your race, and then you were on the plane home, right? Without the mixed relay to kind of focus on. So that must have really enhanced that odd sensation of just like suddenly that's gone almost. What an incredible harsh slice through your Olympic experience.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's very it's a strange feeling with you building up the Olympics, and it's such a big thing, but it's basically just a race and then you go home. And I've been telling a lot of athletes, I'm telling like the Norwegian girls this, because there's been so much focus now on building into the next season for Paris, and there's so much focus on the mixed team relay. And I'm 100% sure we will get the mixed team relay, because the fact that we've shown that we're able to deliver like a top 4, top 5 every time we're there, is we just have to get into the races, and then we'll be there and we'll show that we have the level. So I'm not stressed about that. But the fact that these girls are now focusing so much on the Olympics 3 years ahead of time, and I've had the experience of I've been to the Olympics, it's amazing, but investing all your time and thoughts into a race and then having the possibility that you might not achieve what you want to achieve, then you kind of find yourself in this deep black hole, and you have to remind yourself that there was so many races in between there were so many moments that you should be focused on and you should cherish in between. And I always also think that you shouldn't be chasing the Olympics. You shouldn't be clawing, really scraping on the ground, trying to get in. Because if you're doing that, you might most likely won't have a good experience, because you barely managed to qualify. You barely managed to get in, and the chances of having that kind of massive boost, and I'm in this race and I'm able to commit 100% and be a part of this race and change up the dynamics, is most likely not going to be there. So also the fact that you're going to be ready for the Olympics when it starts becoming this natural thing happening with you, you're getting the points, you're getting into the races. When it just happens by itself, then you know that you're an athlete worthy of kind of competing there. And it's really, I know there's a lot of discussion because Olympics are it's unfair, because a lot of the best athletes don't get to go there. And I also thought I was with Taylor Spivey leading up to the games at altitude, and I was with her when she got the decision of that she wasn't picked, and I saw how terrible that was, and I really felt for her, and that made me also really think of I have to appreciate this, because there are so many athletes that don't get to go and deserve to go. So I really have to raise my heart out and appreciate it for them. And I think it's so sad. It's so sad seeing all these athletes having because the Olympics is so symbolic, and I think it's so ironic. It's such a big thing. It's the biggest thing that happens in our sport, and the Olympics are everything. And then actually the best athletes don't get to go and race. And it's so strange how it could be the biggest event of, a 4-year cycle, and then the best don't get to race. And it's so horrible, and yeah, it's just unfair.
And actually, I think Diego Moya was probably one example of who, he had a great policy of, I just want to be leading or thereabouts coming out of the swim. That's my goal for this race. And he was, and like the beaming smile on his face when he had a great race anyway. Finished sort of mid-20s, I think, or low 20s, and knew that he'd be sort of on the path for Paris and so on. And you just think, it's those, just try and hone in on a slightly more specific goal perhaps than than anything.
Yeah, exactly. And when I'm saying all these athletes that are getting into the Olympic Games, and I think the Olympic Games is also more than just results. It's a lot of funding in it as well. So for some athletes, getting into the Olympic Games is then sorted out for the next 4 years. They get funding, and that's their way of kind of living off their athletic career. And for some people, you have to win a medal to actually be able to get funding, and not actually just being there is enough. So it's very individual, the value of representing, or actually the value of delivering in like a solid result. It's very different. So and that's what we have to think about as well. This is our job, so we have to kind of think about it also as like, it's fun, it's cool, it's a hobby, it's a passion, but it's also work, and we have to get paid, and that's where, you know, the lines are very like different from federation to federation.
Yeah, well, and it'll be great if the Norwegian mixed relay team that has obviously the first high and low of the roller coaster was in Lisbon, was it? And for Solveig, would I pronounce it?
Yeah, Solveig, yeah.
Who, you know, probably by her own admission didn't quite have the swim that she would have wanted to set up that leg to get you guys, you know, help you guys into that top 3 that would have got you the mixed relay team like that. Did you know, did she bounce back from that fine? Did you have to give her some good words of encouragement after that as well? And yeah, how was the team dynamic? Feels so unbelievably positive. I just hope, you know, that she was able to kind of elevate on that as well.
No, I think Solveig's like, she's this bouncing ball. You just throw her down and she just jumps off back again. You know, that's Solveig. She's got this really good energy, and that was such like a. Also with Stina in Hamburg, we're really putting them up for a big challenge. And I don't think I would be able to handle that as well as the young or the 2 other girls. The fact that they're put in a position where they know they're the weakest on the team. And I can say that, and they would be like totally agree with me. Like, they're without a doubt the weakest athletes, because they're put in a position where they have to keep up or either kind of hold back. Even in Hamburg, the fact that, you know, Stina got such a big lead off of Kristian's breakaway, that was just terrifying for her, you know. Talking, you know, to her afterwards, she was just like,
what do I do with
that? You know, what do I do? You know, and looking back, the fact that she got caught up so quickly, but, you know, she did her best. And I think that's the thing, if you do your best, then we can't really control the other teams. And we're building momentum. So for us, it's just experience. We knew we had to have the perfect day, and we just didn't get, like, I didn't perform my best. Kristian didn't. Was it Kristian in second leg in Lisbon? Yeah. Kristian didn't perform his best. We didn't get that breakaway as we did in Hamburg. So the buffer was just not there. So we kind of knew already from the start that we hadn't done our performance to kind of set up Solveig well. So it wasn't only on her. It was basically on the whole team. And I think that puts the pressure off a bit. Of course, that was Solveig's ticket for the Olympics, most likely. You know, if she was to kind of get us into, you know, the top 3 there, because she's been racing really well as well individually this year and this season, and that just makes it even more exciting for what's to come in the future. So yeah, we didn't make it, but we really tried, and we put ourselves in a position that we didn't necessarily think we would be in a year prior. So that's quite cool that we took the challenge, and it's a good experience. And yeah, we were a bit bummed out, but then again, it took us 1 or 2 days, and we were like, so then we make fun of it. Then we're like, Solveig, you're not good enough. You know, you need to work. And I think that's the amazing part with our team, is like, we can actually tell each other off and say, like, if you're not good enough, you just have to work, and you're apparently you're not good enough because you got dropped here and you're crap at cornering. And, you know, we're so honest with each other, with like a very like humoristic touch. And I think that also makes us kind of, okay, I need to improve my cornering, because now they're really making jokes, you know, I'm not technically good there. And, I need to breathe at both sides, because I lost, you know, the relay because I didn't see these girls swimming past me. And so, you know, the fact that we're able to kind of put into words what we saw was the error in, you know, in the race, makes it even more obvious for the athlete. I need to actually perform, and I need to do this better, because it was so black and white, because my teammates are telling me that I'm crap at this.
Yeah, that sort of sense of humor definitely seems to pervade through. I don't know, Kristian seems like a very interesting character, very like to be someone who obviously pushes himself so hard and yet seems so laid back. It's quite an interesting combination of personality traits.
I've been very because I've been a part of. I was with Kristian and Gustav from the very beginning, from 2010, when we met up as young swimmers, cyclists, going into kind of the sport, and just seeing the development Kristian and the way he's become this very relaxed, chilled athlete, because it isn't necessarily like, no, in the beginning as a young athlete, and I see that in myself as well, you're stressed and everything is on edge, and if something doesn't go as scheduled and as planned, it's very stressful. But seeing him this year, the way he's just been relaxing into things, if things hasn't really gone, if it hasn't gone his way, then he doesn't stress. He's very confident in, we'll sort this out, we'll make the most out of it. What we can control, we can control. What we can't control, we won't use and waste energy on. So he's become a very comfortable athlete to be around, and that's really motivating. And he's so good at teaching as well, like learning other athletes, teaching other athletes, you should do this, you should do that. And especially with our new athletes, Solveig and the juniors and so on, he's a very good role model. And it's cool to see that he takes a lot of ownership of this team, as well as that he's kind of making his own way and testing out new stuff, because he's doing stuff on his own now that's very exciting, the sub 7 and the Ironman, and that's also really inspiring, to have a culture where you can challenge yourself in new ways and set new goals outside of Olympics and sprint distance.
Yeah, definitely. And then and you think of Ariel Tveiten, obviously the coach, and him trying to sort of try and keep some sort of lid on you lot, as well as obviously letting you flourish and try these new things. But he's obviously brought in a whole sort of technical, scientific aspect of training that he's embracing as well and bringing in. So yeah.
Well, the thing is, and I think that's also been the kind of background for our success, is it's always been driven by the athletes. We've always done what we've wanted to do. So if we wanted to do in 70.3, the coaches has been like, well, if it doesn't affect the Olympic racing or the sprint distance racing, that's okay. And it's also been very so it's very driven by us athletes. We're very much a part of kind of shaping our own seasons and shaping our own careers. So we're not being told what to do. We're telling the coaches what we want to do, and they'll be like, oh, maybe not. And then we'll be like, oh, I'll do it anyway, or okay, maybe I'll listen to you. So I think that's a very good thing as well. We're a very small group. We're very independent athletes. We have a good team that can guide us, but it's very much, our own, working space, and we're in charge, and that's nice.
Yeah. Great. And a country of only 5 million people, so it's quite the talent that you've got there is amazing. I mean, there was only Sebastian Wernerson, right, who was representing Norway on the
junior
Quarteira, but it is amazing to have that sort of pipeline of talent coming through all at the same time. It's amazing.
I like to think, I like to think of talent as, there's physiological talent, but there's also, the psychological talent. And I think there's a lot of hard will and work ethic talent in our team. And I think that's what's showing in that we're able to perform as such a small team as well, because we have the work ethic and we have the self-belief. And then of course there's, something you have to have as like a physiological talent as well. But it's really hard. It's like well-earned victories through really hard work, and the whole team really deserves all the success it gets is through honest work and just enjoying ourselves. Yeah.
And to avoid that threat of burnout that you said you'd had a couple of times, would you just see those signs coming sooner if you did sense them, or is that something that does still worry slightly, or that you see as a sort of little alarm bells setting off occasionally, or does all that experience that you've already had mean that you'd be able to kind of nip it in the bud before it became a problem?
Well, I think I'm always aware of it, because it's been something that's occurred like I thought when I'd done it, I'd been through it the first time, I'm never going back there. I came back there again, and then I actually hit it again, going in, like I had a brilliant start of the 2019 season, ranked 5th in the world. And I was just thinking, wow, this is going to be amazing. And then I hit the burnout because it was just too much travel, too much training. But it's always kind of, I have to feel my body. Am I happy? How do I feel with myself? And then I also have to think, okay, there's criteria here, Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? How's the training load compared to what you've been doing earlier? And what I've really realized is food is key. You have to eat enough. You have to really just fuel. Because in periods where, and I've really focused on that this year, is fueling, like really understanding how much do I need to get in and when do I need to get it in. And the more you eat, the more energy you get, and the more energy you get, the more you can get out of yourself in training. And I think it's just been, when I've been going into my burnouts, it's the total amount of stress. It's training, competing, traveling, that's stress. Under fueling, under sleeping, that's not going to kind of the recovery tools there, because sleep and nutrition is the biggest recovery tools you have. And if you're not doing well there and you're having all the stress on top, then you're only going to go one way. And it's just a matter of time. Is it going to take me 2 months? Is it going to take me a week? I'll hit that wall and I'll hit it hard. So just kind of being aware of the total amount of stress versus how good are you at the recovery part. That's going to kind of weigh up the stress and make it neutral. And you never want to tip that scale where your stress is actually really high and your recovery is really bad and low. You have to kind of keep the stress neutral as well to a certain point. And then if you have more stress, you have to really focus on the recovery part. And for me, that's eating. I have to eat, and I'm happy to eat as long as it's good food. Yeah.
Well, obviously, I hope the off season goes wonderfully and you get to, relax into it. And 2022, I mean, I can't wait to hopefully, Bergen is on the map, right, for the World Triathlon?
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Like seeing end August, we'll be in Bergen. I'm just saying, everyone that wants to come to Norway, hit me up and you can stay at my place. I'll end up having like 30 triathletes staying at my place and having like this shuttle sent up from Stavanger to Bergen. Honestly, I wish I wish everyone will put that on their calendar, because now it would be such a good thing for Norway and Norwegian triathlon to really get a good event, to get all the athletes up there, to make it a really fun race. I can only say it's going to be a very cool course. It's a stunning city. If they watched the World Championships cycling back in, I can't remember if that was 2016.
All right.
No, 2017 maybe. That was amazing. So I'm just saying if they're telling everyone, if there's nice weather, that's the place to be end of August.
Yeah.
But I can't really promise anything. It could be crap weather too. So it's really exciting. It is. And we also got a Junior European Cup in Haugesund. That's a little bit more like south of Bergen. But stuff is happening. And I think actually bringing international triathlon to Norway after having such an amazing Olympic Games, and triathlon is becoming more and more focused on in Norway, that's going to just benefit the sport and for international athletes as well, but also for national athletes. So please, everyone, come to Norway so you can help us breed stronger athletes in the future.
Yeah, well, and coming back with an Olympic gold there must have been a big impact in the media and so on at home, right, with Kristian coming back with that gold.
Yeah, a little bit of a mixed, like it was very mixed, very high, but also we had a very good Olympic Games, and we had a lot of people take gold medals in very different events.
Right.
So he was competing with some very well-known athletes, like triathlon isn't necessarily the most high profile sport in Norway, and Kristian is very focused on himself. So he's been very much abroad and not really engaging with the national, with the nation in general. And a lot of these athletes that are staying at home training, they've gotten a lot of publicity, and they were kind of really focused when they were going into the games as favorites. So they got a lot of limelight, while, Kristian was just he was just happy to get home, get back to his flat, and then shoot off to altitude camp and focus on the sub 7. So I think that gold medal is lying somewhere in Bergen, and now he's focused on the next goal. And I think that's brilliant to see as well, is he's so focused on kind of becoming a better athlete that I remember I told him after the Olympic Games as well, because he came home to his room at the Olympic Village, and he just sat down in his bed, held his Olympic medal and his teddy bear, the Japanese teddy bear, and I had to kind of go up to him and grab his shoulders and shake him and look him in the eyes and say, "You're a freaking Olympic champion, you know that." And I think I need to tell you that for the next couple of hours, because you seem to be so chilled with it. So that was just cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, August 2022, then that sounds like the perfect way to celebrate that whole period. And great. Well, Lotte, thanks ever so much for your time. And
thank you.
Have a good November, December, January.
Yeah, you too. And then we'll see each other in 2022.
Brilliant. All right. Take care.
Bye.